Week 5 NFL picks as well as Week 6 college football picks. Let's get into it. First game on the docket, Thursday Night Football game. The 49ers, coming off a loss, go and play the Los Angeles Rams in division game, Thursday Night Football. I will say before I get into the picks and predictions, we have been blessed as football fans on primetime games Thursday, Sunday, Monday. The games have been good. We've gotten a lot of good matchups, and I'm just happy about it. Week 5 NFL predictions as well as Week 6 college football predictions. Let's get into it. Alrighty, starting off Thursday Night Football, 49ers are traveling down south to the division foe Los Angeles Rams. Rams are -6.5, and I think that's a pretty solid number. Look, I think the Rams are a better team. They are at home. It's a short week. It's a division rival. This feels like a Rams 4 to 8 point victory, somewhere in that range. I think it's a comfortable-ish victory. The Rams are more consistent on offense. The Rams are more dynamic on offense. They're at home. The 49ers just dropped a game to the Jaguars, but I still think this 49ers team is okay. And I probably would not bet the 6.5. I'd take the Rams money line. I'm going to take the under 46. I don't think this is a super high scoring game. And yeah, let's move on to the London game. I believe it is in London. Vikings playing the Browns. Vikings are -3.5. And look, this is an interesting one. The Vikings just lost to the Steelers. The Browns just lost last week. It's tough to tell because is it better to stay in Europe? You're 6 hours ahead. Is it better to stay there for a week? They're going to, by the time they play the game, they've been there almost 10 days. Or is it better to show up late? We're going to find out. In recent history, it has not worked out great for the team that has been there an extended period of time. That might just be because those teams are not good. It's a pretty small sample size, I will admit. Look, Browns +3.5. They've got a good defense. This game could be sloppy. I'm going to take the Browns +3.5. I'm not super confident in this pick, but that's the route I'm going to go. Broncos at Eagles, and the Eagles are only -3.5. Look, this game I'm bewildered by. 3.5 points. The home field advantage is 2.5, 3 points. Vegas and bettors as a whole are saying that the Eagles are even with the Broncos. Are you serious? The same 2-2 Broncos, the same 9-8 Broncos of last season. The Broncos are an average football team. The Eagles have won 20 straight games that Jalen Hurts plays in. Are we serious right now? What position are the Broncos even better at? If you're going to be an average team, or equal teams, you got to be better at a few positions. You're going to be worse at a few, and the same. The Broncos are better at cornerback 1 by a little bit. Surtain to Quinyon Mitchell, sure, I'll give it to Surtain, but the Broncos are outmatched everywhere. -3.5 seems absurd to me. With that being said, at some point, the Eagles will lose. So it probably won't be to the juggernaut Chiefs. It'll probably be to a run-of-the-mill team that they overlook. So I would like to put that out there. Cowboys at Jets. Cowboys -2.5. This is a tough one for me to bet because a lot of the money is going to come in on the Cowboys. They just tied the Packers. And for the Cowboys, they don't need to win games to get hyped. They need to tie games. If the Cowboys tie football games, that's a big deal for them. They beat the Giants in overtime. That's a big win for them. Tying a team is a big tie. Cowboys get a lot of hype. And look, the Jets, they just had a tough Monday Night Football game. They're going to be on a short week. The Jets are at home. I don't think the Cowboys have a very good defense. Honestly, this is a tough game to pick. I'd probably lean Jets +2.5, but I could see the Cowboys blowing them out. I'm going to lean Jets 2.5, but it's a tough pick. Dolphins -1.5 at Carolina. Look, one win for either of these teams, especially the Dolphins, because they would have won 2 games back-to-back. One win for either of these teams. You start off 0-3. Oh, Panthers were 0-2. They beat the Falcons, and then they lost. But regardless, rough seasons last year, rough seasons to start the year. If you can be 2-3, especially if it's in convincing fashion, I mean, it's a trending upward team. That's it. Okay, we can go on a roll. We're still alive. If you drop to 1-4, that's probably it. That's probably it, especially for these teams. Maybe for different teams, 1-4 is not everything. I think my Ravens, which we'll get to in a second, I think if we go to 1-4, we could still turn things around. But Dolphins and Panthers, for Bryce Young and Tua, they need this game badly. I'm going to go Dolphins, though. Giants at Saints. The Saints are minus 2.5. And this is kind of similar to my Eagles talk. It's like, you get the 2.5 point, and this is in reverse because I think the Giants are superior to the Saints. You get the 2.5 points for home field advantage. Are we really trying to talk about the Giants being even with the Saints? Give me a break. The Giants are a better football team. Could they lose? Sure. They're not a juggernaut team, but I think the Giants are close to average, and the Saints are well below average. So I take the Giants plus 2.5. I take the Giants money line. Raiders or Colts. This is an interesting one. Look, the Colts are minus 6.5. They're at home. The Raiders haven't been great this year, but the Colts just dropped a game. This is the game. You don't need to just win because we expect you to beat the Raiders at home. We need you to win convincingly. If you can win convincingly and marry that with the Week 1 blowout of the Dolphins, the Week 3 blowout, as well as the Week 2 close win, that's a team we're talking about. The East Coast, and I know Indianapolis isn't the East Coast, but the Eastern time zone to the Western time zone, you lose a close one to the Rams, whatever. We can excuse that. 4-1, convincing in 3 of those, that's a real team. If you barely win this game or if you lose this game, we're going to have some serious discussions about you being frauds. I'm going to take the Colts minus 6.5, but it's a big game. I'd mention my Baltimore Ravens. The Texans are favorites in Baltimore. The Texans are minus 1.5. And if I recall correctly, the Baltimore Ravens have not been home underdogs in a game that Lamar Jackson played in. Now, we have been home underdogs in multiple Week 18s or Week 17s where we are resting or where we've been eliminated. But in the Lamar Jackson era, we have not been home underdogs. Not once. And this is insane to see the Texans of all teams, not the Bills, not the Eagles, not the Chiefs, the Texans of all teams to be the team that is the first favorite. And look, this is a tough game to pick. It's essentially a pick 'em. And I don't know. Is Lamar playing? Is the various... I don't know who's going to play. So it really is... It's tough to tell if we're not going to have Lamar. Kyle Van Noy, Madubuike is gone for the season. Very unfortunate. Hope he gets better soon. But this game is solely dependent on which guys play. And preferably, Lamar needs to play. If Lamar doesn't play, this game could get messy quick. I'm not going to give a prediction on a game where I'm not totally sure on who's playing or not. Bucks at Seahawks. The Seahawks are minus 3, and this kind of surprises me because I think most people believe the Bucks are a better team than the Seahawks. The Seahawks are getting that 3-point home field advantage in Vegas. It's a tough one. Look, the Bucks just lost to the Eagles, and the Seahawks are going to have a long week. The Buccaneers, this is one of the longest flights. Well, pretty much is the longest flight other than Miami to Seattle. But, you're flying all that time, 3 time zones, different temperature, different climate. I'm not a big Sam Darnold guy. I don't really trust him. I will admit that. But I'm going to go with the Seahawks. That East Coast, Southeast Florida, all the way up to the Pacific Northwest. It feels like a Seahawk game. It really does. Titans at Cardinals. Cardinals are minus 7.5 at home. Look, Cam Ward and the Titans stink. He said it himself. It's not just me. Cardinals have not been looking great. Now, they did make a little bit of a comeback on Thursday Night Football against the Seahawks, which I just mentioned, but the Cardinals look pedestrian. And I think the Titans, at some point, they have to get lucky. Everybody has to get lucky. If you just keep... if you're a complete newbie and you don't know even how to play golf, if you take 100 swings, at some point you're going to get lucky and the ball's going to go near the cup or it might go in. The Titans, they got to get lucky at some point. At some point, Cam Ward has just got to make the right reads. The interceptions, the interceptable balls that he throws get dropped. The ball's tipping. At some point, you got to get lucky. I think the Titans win this game. I have no X's and O's rationale on why they win this game, but they can't just lose every game. This team isn't that bad. It's not a college football team. They're gonna win at some point. So I've got the Titans, but I don't have any strong reason for why I believe that. Commanders at Chargers. Chargers are minus 3. So once again, Vegas is just saying this is a pick'em type game on a neutral site. I'm leaning towards the Commanders. Look, I think the loss of Alt and Slater is a big deal. This team is not going to be able to run the football. The play action game is going to be suspect. I think this Chargers team, they always find a way to charger. They always find a way to let us down. And I'm not a Chargers fan, but just let us down as NFL fans. And that's not their fault. We can't blame guys for getting injured. That's just how sports work. But I'm going to take Commanders +3. We got Lions at Bengals. Lions are -10. -10 on the road. Look, I'm just getting a feeling. The Bengals lost big. Kind of similar with the Titans. When teams lose big, they just rebound by accident. A lot of that spread when the Falcons got blown out and when these other teams get blown out, or the Browns when they got blown out by the Ravens and ended up winning the next week. It's like, look, the NFL, all these teams, they're pretty close to coin flips. Now, you got Mahomes, you got the Chiefs, you got the Eagles. They're dominant teams, but all these teams are still NFL teams. The Bengals are at home as double-digit underdogs. You don't see that. I'm going to go Bengals +10. Look, they've got too much talent. They've got too much heart. They've got to give me something. The Bengals have got to give me something. Maybe they don't win this game. Probably not. But they got to keep it within 10. They really do. Patriots at Bills. Bills are -8.5 at home. Look, I thought the Saints would keep it close last week. They kind of did until the Bills pulled away late, but that game felt closer than it should have been with the 15.5-point spread. I'm conflicted because I don't think the Patriots win this game. I don't think they do win it. I could see the Patriots keeping it close, but I could see the Bills winning by 50. I'm conflicted. I'm just not going to bet this game. I don't think it's a good game to bet. We got the Chiefs at Jaguars. Chiefs are -3.5. It's a Monday Night Football game. Chiefs are on a hot streak. They beat the Giants. Then they beat the Ravens. And look, the Chiefs are back. I hate to say it as a Ravens fan, but the Chiefs are back. I think the Chiefs win this game. I think they win it outright. It could be close, potentially. Maybe they only win by 2 or 3, but I would take the Chiefs for sure. Now we are going to get into college football, and we are going to get into our Week 6 college football predictions. And alrighty, so kicking it off, we got the Friday night game. Last week's Friday night game was big. You had the UVA football team winning. They upset Florida State. Now, we got West Virginia going to BYU. BYU is -18.5, and a lot of people are predicting BYU gets upset. Look, the upsets with the deep home underdog, they can happen. On the road, all those time zones over, BYU's undefeated. West Virginia's already taken 3 losses. West Virginia's not going to threaten anything there. We got number 2 ranked Illinois going to Purdue. Illinois is -9.5. Look, I'm never sold on Illinois. I am not sold. Both of those, you got Illinois, you got Indiana, you got Iowa, all those I's, and I'm not a fan of any of them. We're about to get into some of those other I teams. I don't like them. There's something about them. They don't feel trustworthy to me. At home, it's early. It's a noon o'clock start, which they're not really on the East Coast, so it's even earlier than noon, really. I'm going to go Purdue. I think Purdue upsets. Now, we got Iowa State going to Cincinnati. Cincinnati's actually -1.5. Cincinnati's not ranked. Iowa State is ranked 14th. They're 5-0. And I know I said I don't like the I teams, but I've watched one Iowa State game. They look pretty good. Obviously, they've won all their games, so they've got to look decent. I'm going to take Iowa State. I think Iowa State wins, and they don't need to cover because they're underdogs. We got Kentucky at Georgia, another noon o'clock game. Look, Georgia's favored by 20.5. They just lost to Alabama again. And Kirby Smart's going to put on a clinic. I mean, they're going to be pulling out all of the stops. Whenever these elite coaches and elite teams lose, especially in embarrassing fashion, and a small loss isn't embarrassing, but again to Alabama, I think Kirby's going to put on a clinic. I mean, Kentucky, who cares about Kentucky? We got Wisconsin at Michigan. Michigan's -16.5. Look, That offense is pretty anemic. They could win by this much. I wouldn't put it out of the cards. But 16.5 for an okay offense. I know they're playing Wisconsin. I get that. An okay offense, you're going to expect them to. Because if you're betting minus 16.5, you need them to really win by 3 touchdowns. You need them to win by 3 touchdowns. And I'm not even fully sure Michigan's going to score 3 touchdowns. So that is not a good bet for me. Boise State going to Notre Dame. Look, Notre Dame minus 20.5. I find that line to be absurd. Look, Boise State, they lost Genty. They're not as good as they were last year, obviously, but they're still vying for that Power 5 bid. They're still trying to make the playoffs. And Notre Dame, do they really have a chance? I mean, Notre Dame, although technically if they win out, a 2-loss team, maybe they can make it. But in all honesty, I think Notre Dame kind of knows their season's over. They're not going to make the playoffs. I think they know it's a wrap for them.